the rational way, the way that America demands, is that they have leaders who present themselves in a way that is reasoned and decent and brings out the better angels in people. When we do that, we'll get to better outcomes, we'll get to better policies, and we'll have a more prosperous, more secure America as well.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mr. Secretary, so you were the 70th Secretary of State. Might you be the 47th President of the United States?
Oh, good. Rob, thanks for having me on today. Only the Lord knows the answer to that. What we can all be sure of is these times in America call for serious leadership. They require for thoughtful, experienced leaders who are prepared to actually do the hard work to deliver security and prosperity for our country. I pray that when we have our next presidential election now, just about 2 years on, we get exactly that.
So you have a book coming out January 24th called Never Give an Inch. I love the title because we are in a battle right now in this world, in our country, good versus evil. Our system of government is under attack here in America. What, in your mind, made you write Never Give an Inch? Some would say, well, you know, you're a secretary, you're a diplomat, you should be compromising. But you're saying,
Rob, on the things that matter most, one can't give an inch. There's room for compromise. You know, if my son wanted to go to bed at 8:15 and I thought 8 o'clock was the right time, 8:07, it's just fine. But on the things that matter, the protection of human life, the central thesis that they're just two genders, understanding that America is indeed the most exceptional nation in the history of civilization, there's just no reason, no rational basis, and it is indeed dangerous for our country if one begins to round the corners or give an inch. And so I wrote this book with a central understanding that when you get it right, when you know that righteousness and reason are on your side, you've got to be prepared to fight for that no matter who brings heck on you and who challenges you on those very central ideas that we all know to be true.
Well, Matt Crouch, of course, of TBN here is to your right in Colorado. And Matt, maybe you can get that answer out of him. I couldn't, the first question, whether he's going to run for president.
So, you know, everybody is talking about you, Mike, as a politician, a congressman, everyone's talking about, but you know, I'm starting to think of you as a TV host. I'm starting to think of you as somebody that's able to communicate. I was in Israel with you recently, a brand new television series. You and David Friedman walk down, ride down, and journey down Route 60. In Jerusalem, and it is a brand new series. We have lots of plans for this series. We have plans for a theatrical release for this project, airing on TBN. So, you know, a lot of people talk about you as a military guy, and then a Congress, and then Senate Intelligence Committee, then you've got CIA in there, then you've got all the Secretary of State stuff, but you have to add to that TV host. So I'm not sure what answer they were trying to get out of you, but I'm thinking the next highest thing is a TV host.
More of a face for radio, Matt. Look, you know, it's interesting you mentioned this because the capacity to communicate, the capacity to reason and make arguments is something I think's frankly been missing. Rob spoke earlier about the unity that came around when we had this football player injured, and everyone's praying, everyone's turning together towards the Lord with their eyes looking up. I think so often we've just, everybody's gone to Twitter, everybody's trying to just own the other side. The better answer is to make the case for why the things you believe, the Judeo-Christian heritage of our country, the fact that we're teaching our kids garbage in schools, right? Name calling, yeah, fine, I can throw bombs with the best of them. But in the end, the rational way, the way that America demands is that they have leaders who present themselves in a way that is reasoned and decent and brings out the better angels in people. When we do that, we'll get to better outcomes, we'll get to better policies, and we'll have a more prosperous, more secure America as well. And so, you know, whether that's whether that's media personalities doing that or political leaders, it's always important that we remember that the American people are owed deep, complex arguments about why what it is you're arguing for makes a difference in their lives each and every day.
If you added up the time that we've spent together, getting to know each other and there's about 98% of it that we've had TV cameras and TV crews around us, and we're trying to communicate a bunch of messages, okay? One that, I welcome, as it were, to the Western White House, as it were. I'm joking. A lot of people recognize this location with Mike Rowe, and we do the series Story Behind the Story here. And Mike, you've been here for a couple of days, and we've been unpacking this book that 417 pages. I read every page, and the interesting thing that has come out is you talk very openly about your Christian faith. You're, very clear about even the circumstances that someone at West Point invited you to a lemonade and cookie event, which led to what?
It led to my coming to understand Jesus as my Savior. These were folks who were putting on a Bible study and invited a bunch of freshman cadets to a Sunday afternoon gathering, and they taught us how to read the Bible. And since that day, I came to understand the Lord better, and it has been a center point, a focus of my life. And I couldn't have done all the jobs that you've walked through. I could not have done them, however well I did them. I could not have done them as well as I did without me understanding that there's something far bigger than me in the world.
So what we have ultimately been unpacking here, and what I take away from this book is, Mike, you have this very clear clarion call to faith guiding your decisions. And you also have the weird task as the CIA director to target enemies on the battlefield and, in essence, order the dirty work that it takes to keep Americans safe. How do you fit that in one brain? That that there is this side of me, and then I have this other side that I have the responsibilities to do.
Yeah, if you think about them at one level, they're hard to hold in your head at the same time. But at another level, the responsibility that you have, when you swear to defend and protect the United States of America and our Constitution, you have a responsibility when there are those who threaten it to make sure that our people, whether that's civilians, whether that's our friends and allies in nations like Israel, whether it's our soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines all across the world, you have a responsibility to take the actions necessary to keep them safe and secure. And so these are hard problems. They take place in the context of a very mean, very difficult, very nasty world where not everybody is looking out for the best interests of America. That's my best diplomatic language I can summon.
Yeah.
And so America's leaders have a responsibility to make sure we understand that we've got to put the American people at the center of the way we think about our security policy, our economic policy, the way we deliver against what our founders asked us to do here at home. And so that does mean that leaders have to spend some time in some pretty dark places and some pretty difficult contexts and be fearless in executing the missions that are necessary to keep everyone safe.
I believe I'm remembering correctly that you were in Egypt. There was a speech that you wanted to deliver. You wanted to talk about your Christian faith, and your staff said, yeah, no. And you said, yeah. And give us that little story. It's in the book.
So I was going to give a speech in Cairo on security in the Middle East and the Trump administration's theory of the case to deliver peace and prosperity. It ultimately led to the Abraham Accords. But that day I wanted to talk about the history of the relationship and the fact that America had been a force for good in the Middle East, not a troublemaker in that place. And so I wanted to start it out by letting everybody in the audience know who I was and the prism through which I viewed both America and the world. And I did that by the opening sentence being something akin to, I'm Mike Pompeo and I'm an evangelical Christian. And it's fascinating, and I read about this a bit, a little bit controversial, I suppose, in some quarters, but most of the people in that room that day were Muslims, people who believed in the Quran and were of Islamic faith. And I've gotten more notes and cards from people who said, we really appreciated the fact that you were honest, you were transparent, You demonstrated your discipline, your commitment to your faith. It's not that you don't get it wrong sometimes, but you are disciplined in that faith in a way that we are, and you were someone that we could take on board, understand, and work with.
You were in the Trump administration, first as CIA director, then as Secretary of State. If you look back over that time, Mike, how would you be able to improve this clock that you're always up against to never give an inch?
Yeah.
And how would you be able to, let's call it, hit the ground running in case Rob Astorino's question ever gets answered at some point, and you serve at the highest level? How do you hit the ground running?
Yeah, you have to be mindful, and I probably underappreciated this when I was confirmed to be the CIA director. Time is short. I had 1,000 days exactly as Secretary of State, fewer than that as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Our team, President Trump, he came from a place where he hadn't been around the federal government before, and so we were slow to take the policies that the president committed to and actually put the team on the field and begin to execute and implement them. I think we need leaders who have seen that, been there, and who appreciate the fact that you got to be ready to go. Maybe not even just day one. Once you're elected in November, you've got just a short window to get the team ready to go. Because there will be naysayers, there will be those that will put sand in the gearbox, they'll try and stop the things that you're doing, and you need to be determined and organized to, starting in January of the year in which your president is elected, you need to be ready to go begin to execute the policies and demonstrate to the American people why it is the things that you campaigned on actually make a difference. And it's cumulative, it's additive. If you get it right at the outset, you can actually accelerate instead of becoming mired in the morass that is Washington, D.C.
West Point graduate, #1 in the class, a Harvard-trained lawyer, businessman, congressman, Senate Intelligence Committee, CIA director, Secretary of State. All of that points, obviously, to TV host after that.
Yeah. You forgot, Matt, you forgot 5th grade Sunday school teacher, which is the best preparation for being America's Secretary of State one can imagine.
Yeah. So basically, we are, I suppose my takeaway in this book was your ability to call a spade, okay? No one's read the book. You gave me copy number 6 here. This is brand new. It's available on the 24th. Pre-order now. Basically, explain what I mean by that. You are willing to compromise and then never give an inch, and you end up having this duality, as it were. Explain what I mean. It's very clear in the book.
Yeah. Look, it's when one says never give an inch, it's not about, if you're deciding how many microbial parts there can be in the air. We're going to talk about 0.006 or 7. Yeah, no big deal. You can get someplace and find, collect. But boy, when you're looking around the world and someone's trying to take out America, trying to kill Americans, trying to undermine the American economy, when you are working on policy to protect innocent lives, making sure that American taxpayer dollars don't go to underwrite abortions around the world. There's no compromise. There's not some number that's okay. You have to maintain the center point, and it's what our founders understood best, right? If you go read the Constitution, there were lots of compromises built into it, but if you look at the structures that they laid out, they weren't prepared to compromise on the central institutions, the nature of pursuing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They weren't prepared to compromise 1 inch on those things. And if we can return to that here in America, I'm very confident we'll get another 250 great years.
Okay, in our setup piece today, I noticed that we were talking about the border. You call it in the book a Gates test. What do I mean, Gates test?
Yeah, you have to get this piece at the center. If we're not prepared to defend our sovereignty, if we're going to allow people to travel here and transit illegal drugs, transit young women and children, have terrorists come across that border who are unchecked, unfiltered. This is an absolute gating issue for the United States of America. You got to get that one right. President Trump campaigned on it, got it right after a couple of years, and then it was undone by the Biden administration. I regret that. Not for me, not because they undid something that I was involved in working on, but because the American people are less secure and less safe, and the world is worse off as a result of our failure to defend our southern border.
You talk also about there's not that many people trying to leave America.
No, one-way traffic. Yes.
They're trying to get here. And so if you think about what the headlines say, we're not good people, but why is everyone trying to get here? In essence, the American ideal, the American that you're fighting for, fighting for the America I love, how do we protect it?
With people all across the country defending the things they know to be right. This isn't a Washington top-down solution. We need good leaders in Washington. We need them in our state capitals all across America. But this is about American people saying, nope, you're not going to teach my kids garbage at school. I'm going to run for the school board. I'm going to go to the PTA meeting. It's about when they're trying to close down our churches. It's Americans saying, no, we're going to go be in faith and community with our fellow parishioners, and we're going to defend our little church, our synagogue, our place where we go to worship. When individual Americans do that in the small places of America, Boy Scout troops and all the things that have built America from the bottom up, then our leaders will respond to that, and the American people will get a country that they know and that they love and that reflects the greatest traditions of our nation. I'm convinced of that.
You have a decent resume, Mike. But were you a Boy Scout or Cub Scout?
I was in Indian Guides with my father, so a long time ago. I hadn't thought about that for a while.
Really?
Yes.
Explain that to me.
Oh, so my dad and I'm trying to remember. I think I was full moon, my brother was half moon, and my dad was rising sun. But I'll have to check the facts. But we were Indian Guides. It kind of taught us, right, to be outdoors, to be self-sufficient, that it was okay to be outside of air conditioning every once in a while. Yeah. And you were around family too. So my father was there. It was an important part of my growing up. We did it for a whole handful of years. And I not only learned how to make flints, but most importantly, I learned how to get along with my peers and the importance of teams and family as well.
Teams and family. As we're sitting here, we're here in the barn. So welcome again to the barn. Centerpoint's actually never been to the barn before, but they're here now. But just a little ways out that window over there is the main house. Your wife and my wife are sitting up there. They're waiting for us to finish this and go have dinner. Tell me the importance of Susan Pompeo in what makes Mike Pompeo go.
Well, as a Christian, my responsibility to family is imperative. It's if you read the book, I talk about times where I was really, really busy, but there was something going on, and my wife called, and it may seem in the scheme of things not to be important, but boy, I wanted to perform my responsibility as a father and as a husband as well. I'm incredibly blessed to have Susan. All of the accomplishments, anything I've done, would not have been done nearly as well if I hadn't had Susan by my side. She participated with me at the State Department and CIA, trying to help our teams be better. And then when I was down, she'd pick me up. And when I was having a really good day and I just maybe was thinking I was all that, she made sure and kept me humble as well.
As I have been around her more, she seems like she could be a force to be reckoned with. And she's a fierce defender of who and what you are. And that matters, doesn't it?
It does.
The family matters.
It absolutely matters. If you had a chance to meet my son, he'd be the same way. That they can all see Dad's shortcomings. Right? They are not immune to that. But they can also see that as a family, we have tried each day to make life better for not only our own family, but for all of those around it. And so I have just been incredibly lucky to have Nick and his now brand new wife Rachel as part of my team and my family, and my wife Susan, who is an incredible blessing to me every day.
Before we send it back to Dallas and Pastor Jeffress and Rob, there was a thing in the book that you mentioned, this brand new book available January 24th. where somebody was trying to take a swipe at you. I don't recall what major newspaper, but it was one of the major ones. And they're trying to take a swipe at you, and they wrote, Mike Pompeo, God's diplomat. Now, I'm sure they were trying to out you. They were trying to, it wasn't just a real friendly thing. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you read the piece, the headline was dripping in sarcasm or
Exactly.
criticism or perhaps both. They thought that the fact that I talked about my faith was something that was inconsistent with my responsibilities as Secretary of State. The truth is, I remember reading the headline thinking, oh my goodness, I'll take that. God's diplomat. If that were etched onto my tombstone, I can hardly think of something that would be more satisfying to me. If you can be a messenger for him, even just a little bit, it's a darn good thing. And so sign me up for that particular headline.
So, Rob, maybe next time we have the Secretary as a guest, we'll have softened him up enough to answer the question that we were trying to get, what's next? You thought president, I thought TV host. So whatever it's going to be great. Back to you guys there in Dallas.
Well, Matt, we tried, and now I know why the name of his book is Never Give an Inch. He didn't give an inch on that question at all. Mr. Secretary, let me ask you one quick question. You're going to have dinner with the Crouches. Now that you're out of office and you've met so many interesting people in the world, who would you love to sit down with and have dinner with just because you want to do it?
Oh, goodness. There's so many folks. In the end, the folks that can do us the most harm, I'd love to sit with them and remind them of why it is America is going to continue to be successful, and the fact that Xi Jinping or Chairman Kim or Vladimir Putin's efforts to undermine our nation just aren't going to work. And so maybe it's them. That might not be the most fun or entertaining guest to be with. I'm sure I'll have more fun this evening, but I can't imagine any task that's more important than preserving this great nation.
All right, Mr. Secretary, thank you, and maybe we'll see you in Iowa in a year. Thank you again.
Thanks, Rob.